question for you. Do your family members still ask you? Well, today we're going to talk about how you can boost your influence by connecting. Hey, welcome back. Hey, Monica. You guys all know that you are also the co-host on the couch, and we're looking forward to conversation with you. So just make sure you drop your comments in the chat. Be part of this conversation that we're getting ready to have about the sphere of influence. So it's now time to meet our co-hosts, and Monica Henderson, MinkLife, Motivation and University. And our first day is, how has connecting with your sphere helped you win this you're taking?
So my connecting with my sphere actually is something that I think I don't do that great of a job with, but I've been practicing getting better with the help of Colleen. The craziest part about all of it is when someone tells you about a service that is exactly the way you are, or someone says, "Now, what do you do again?" My mother always asks me, I don't know how to explain to my friends what you do. And so this has been kind of a journey for me, particularly. So I'm excited to have this conversation because in some ways I know what I'm supposed to do, but in other ways there are some things that I'm not doing that I'd love to kind of pick our follow-up Fortune Finders brain on in this conversation. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah. When we talk about sphere of influence, there's a lot of different ways to we talk about, our family, our friends, the people around us. I also have influence when I do all my networking, and the fact of, I belong. So I look at those organizations as another sphere of influence of people that I can. So are we ready to get motivated? So
there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah. That's okay. We're all here. We're just hanging out. I'm at the beach today.
You're at the beach?
Yeah, I'm at the beach. Yeah, on the East Coast. So
okay, work hard, play hard, baby.
That's right. we talk about, sometimes that's what you need, right? So, so let's look at getting motivated with today's. Why is it important to share what you do and your work with those people?
So the main reason why it's important is so you don't have your mother ask you, "What do you do again?" I was trying to tell my friends. But there's a lot of the times that we're doing things in our regular life, and in a lot of times in our community, MinkLife community, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, this is my work life and that's my home life." But I always think, if the people in your home life love you and want you to be successful, they're actually probably the best cheerleaders for sharing what you do and how proud they are of you and your successes. And so if we can give them the right words to share with their people and their connections, they're more likely to want to share what you do and possibly even bring you their friends to work with you. It happened a lot when I was in the custom clothing business. I had friends of friends say, "Hey, you sew, right? I have a friend who needs something hemmed, or I have a friend who needs something made." They came up in conversation. Do you do that? And so there have been quite a few in in a past life of mine where the sphere of influence was actually the referral source to get me clients. And sometimes those referrals were like clutch. They were like right when I needed a bill paid, or they were like right when I was like in between projects and just kind of needed a little something. So you never know how your sphere of influence can be a blessing to you when you're working, when you're like, in your business and in your trenches, and you're not thinking about it. And those referrals can kind of come from this like angel in the sky, it feels like.
Yeah. And you're typically the ones that want to support you. So they're support you, then they'll love to step in and support you. But you have to give them the tools and words and so forth to be able to do that for you. Yeah. So now we want to look at getting staying. So the lack of understanding how to leverage the people affect the way you move business.
Yeah. So a lot of the times we don't leverage. Most of us are not leveraging our friends and family to help us get more business, right? I don't know about you. If you're watching right now and you're like killing it in the game, please share, because I know a lot of people that are not leveraging the people in their community, and that they're on soccer teams. Parents and their kids are playing soccer together, or they're a part of the PTA together, leveraging those relationships to essentially get more out of it, other than just like, hey, let's go to yoga and talk about our kids, right? So it really kind of, if you don't understand that those people are in your corner and want you to be successful. One of the people who not notoriously, but like famously repost me all the time was someone that I was on the board of directors with when I was the president of the parent organization for my daughter's school. Now she's an accountant for the government, so she doesn't really need my services. She's not in that entrepreneurial space, but she's constantly sharing and reposting my content anytime I'm doing anything. And I feel that vote of like success and positivity and like, oh, like that's so cool, because it's an unexpected place for that share to come from. I've never asked her to share anything. I've never asked her to promote me. And yet and still, because she works, because she's a part of a sorority, and because she's a part of these other organizations, she's like, hey, there are other women in my network who could use this, even though I can't. So I want to promote you. So that's, by not understanding that they are advocates for you in the world, they are support systems for you in the world, but you have to give them some, I guess, permission to share and support you. If you don't understand that, you could be missing out on a huge opportunity for yourself in that way.
Those people in your, you take them from the community to a closer in, sphere of influence person. There's always those people in those networks that you have to know them, or, and reach out to them, because they're the ones that could really take your, so actively supporting other people in your network, that influence person, right? Looking at, we start to make our list. We take a list of people and go, okay, these are my sphere of influence, and who else should I connect with on a regular basis and stay top of mind with. That person posts you, and shares because she's in your sphere. So if you look at, how can I leverage the resources that you already have out there?
Yep, so true. So
one of the best parts, keep networking, right? So who should we favorite topic? Yeah. So who should we ask for help when we're trying to improve with that sphere of influence? Maybe I already answered that, but we'll continue.
Well, I would definitely say, Peggy beat me to it. Fall in love with follow-up. So I'm going to take this time to brag on Colleen. If you haven't connected with Colleen, if you are anyone who has to do lead generation, and you are struggling in this space of connecting with the people who like, know, and trust you already because you are friends outside of the business capacity, or you are a support system outside of this space, you definitely want to connect with someone like Colleen. Colleen helps with this program called Fall in Love with Follow-Up. I miss her because she's on vacation this week. So my follow-up will wait until she gets back. But a lot of rekindling of relationships actually happened through that process of developing the relationship. So definitely having someone like Colleen in your corner to support you through kind of like reaching out and feeling comfortable with that weird, like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in like 6 months. Like being able to kind of like be in a supportive space to kind of have that moment and still do it anyway is definitely something. But also connecting with old connections that used to be very, very helpful with fostering new relationships. I think so. Maybe like heads of the organizations or the places that you've been before, to like say, hey, it's been a while. How are things going? And seeing if maybe you can kind of reconnect into those communities.
Facebook user, I don't know the name, but thank you for your comment about networking connections. I always say connections are key, right? So it all comes down to building and really taking them to the next level. Look at those. I mean, I used to, way back when my my kids were little, I sold them pottery, and I would sit at the ball game putting labels on fly, and that was just a very subtle way of putting it out there, for connect, right? And they got to know what you did and so forth. And of course, now we look a lot of times people do meetups, find your hobby, connect with somebody based on the hobby, and almost always it comes around to, well, what do you do for, don't be salesy about it, but go out, make real connect in what they're doing. And that, I think the business stuff always comes around, right? Because it's always, people, and how can I help you? It's that kind of, people want to reciprocate. How can we be of service of each other?
Yeah, there are definitely people that I have met that we ended up doing business with later because we were on a wine tasting tour excursion in Mexico, like on a cruise. And it was like, oh, let's do a wine tasting excursion, and we're all happy and liquored up and having conversation. And it's like, oh, we work in the same neighborhood. Oh, we should totally kind of connect. And so, yeah, definitely finding people who are part of the same hobby set that you have.
Right.
I forget who I heard many years ago, and they were like, always make friends through business because they're more likely to kind of be with you forever, right? Because they're able to go both ways on that line. And when you make a friend in business, you make a friend in real life too. And so I treat all of it that way. It's like, okay, either I'm going to be the connection source to get them what they need in order to be successful, or they're going to be the connection source for me to get what I need to be successful. But either way, it doesn't just stay in this bubble conversation about like, oh, well, this is all we can talk about. We can only talk about this part, but like, let's talk about all the things in our lives. Let's talk about like what's happening with our families. Let's talk about what's happening with our friendships. Let's talk about what's happening in our businesses or in our work world. Because when we can kind of broaden that conversation with our friends, we can then become that conduit of change for them in a lot of ways and create an impact. And in so many ways, my life has been enriched by my sphere of influence. And those originally were like co-partners in networking groups, right? So like my daughter found out she loved softball because we did a one-to-one from my networking group, and her daughter was there, and so we had like a double play date kind of a thing. And then she's like, I'm going to play soccer. I'm not going to play softball. Do you want to play too? My daughter was like, I guess. Had never been interested in softball before. Was like not on her radar, and she turned out to be like super awesome at it. Like was like a first baseman and was like really competitive and aggressive about it. But had we not had that kind of like overlapping of like life and business in that one-to-one, we would have never been able to enrich my daughter's life in that way. And there were so many other connections. I did a lot of tailoring for her because at the time it was really promoting my custom clothing business. So I did a lot of tailoring for her and a lot of her friends as well. And so there's something to be said about that like holistic friendship where everything about the friendship is for the betterment of each other, including not just the personal life, but also in the professional world too.
Right. Yeah. I look at networking groups, and one of them, they talk about being transformational versus, so I look at it as, building relationships versus being transaction. The people I work with are people who want to build an ongoing relationship with just a one type of transaction type thing. So I work, mostly with like the entrepreneurs and small business owners, versus maybe they're just buying a service, right? Or, restaurants. Yes, they want to have a relationship with you. Ones that like I create relationships where I want to send you cards and I want to what your kids are doing, right? So it's those types of people work with, and I think even in social media, I know when I was first getting on social, you should have a personal page and a business page and keep them totally separate. Thoughts you could keep it totally separate, or you could integrate it. And I'm like, well, I live, so that was going to be too hard for me to go, only put it over here, what you see, right? So, and I'm going to talk about my kids. I'm going to talk about what we're doing, I'm going to business and how, and maybe that's, I had a conversation with somebody the other day. We were doing a one or something, and my kids wrestled all through their life, and it's a big thing. And the person was going, oh, I've been thinking about getting my 6-year-old into start giving conversation, and like totally went in a different area, but I person, and so, and now I think that's something that's we're connected, something we've made a connection, right? People want to do business with people. It's not in the old days where you used to look up a number in book, right? Do people even have this? Or look them up online. Everyone's still look for testimonials, or they look for reviews and stuff. And with it's like the next level of a review, right? Because they get to know you, buy from you.
Yeah, now that we're kind of like talking about this sphere of influence conversation, I'm like, wait a minute, my husband's gotten clients from sitting hours on end at a softball game, like staring at our kids. Some of the kids sitting in the outfield picking flowers, right? Like, and we start up a conversation of like, oh, my kid's the flower picker out in left field, right? Like, and then from there it goes, okay, so what else you got going on? Oh, well, I'm trying to do this, that, or the other, right? Like having a vibrant social life and being able to kind of build the relationships in that vibrant social life, but then also allowing those lines to blur a bit, just so that if there's something comes up, you're available to be the solution to someone's kind of immediate problem is really, really helpful. And a lot of the times, when people think about networking, they think of like being a card dealer is what I always call it, right? Like you get a card, you get a card, you get a card, you get a card. Everybody gets a card, and it really, like you said, it's not about promoting yourself, but it's about building those relationships so that when it's time, uh, that though you're in the right position to be of service to those people in those times, there's not a single part of my life, or business that I can think of that wasn't directly impacted by the networking and the sphere of influence and friends introducing friends and in kind of building that way. I wouldn't be sitting here in this house directly without a friend introducing me to a friend, right? That was how I met Peggy, was through through a networking group, and the networking member knew Peggy and was like, hey, you two should have a conversation. And here we are now, like basically inseparable. We are literally stuck at the hip now, both friendship wise and business wise, I think, at this point. But that allowing yourself to be fully human and allowing yourself to, and I think the very first time that I met Peggy, or maybe the second time that I met Peggy, we came to her daughter's 13th birthday party. The second time I think that I met her in my daughter, and it was like a play date, right? So like that kind of concept of like, oh, well, these things are separate, I think are incorrect. And if you look at like upper society, right? Like I'm more, I mean, I have highbrow taste, but I'm pretty much lowbrow, right? But in those highbrow circles, right, it's all about networking for them, and how they're positioning their family to support the movement forward. And I think there's maybe some notes that we can take from that as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, where our significant others, our children, our family members can present us in positions and places that we may not be able to walk in the door in on a regular basis, because that's not who we are normally around, but they have access to those areas that we're not necessarily in.
It's just a matter of stepping out a little bit sometimes, right? So I know there's sometimes you're sitting there, you don't want to like overshare, but then you have to at least share. We get those questions of like, somebody else says, oh, I just got this new thing and this coaching program and everything. And it was like, oh, I do that, right? So people that are in your sphere know what you do. So
absolutely.
We're on to our last question already. We want to look at gaining knowledge. So what's some final thoughts and tips that we on this area of a sphere of influence, like to really bring it home?
So my final thought would be, I'm gonna take what Peggy always says: be consistent and authentic. If you show up as the same person in life and in business, everywhere you go, it tends to kind of lend to people wanting to continue to work with you, right? If I show up to the softball game for my daughter, and I'm in the stands, and I am willing to introduce myself to people, if I'm willing to be kind of service or coming from a place of contribution in that space, then when someone maybe needs me in a different capacity, they're going to more likely choose me because, well, I knew how you whipped it together for this. I would love for you to do that for something else. And actually, that happened. So I ran a lot of events as the president of the board for my daughter's school. And about 6 months ago, one of the moms who was running an event was like, hey, I know you're a really savvy businesswoman, and I just loved your energy and the way you showed up for the carnival and how you were just like an amazing, energetic ball. I would love for you to be a part of this event. And in that process, I got two of my speakers, or two of my trainers, Peggy and Yo, speaking opportunities because of how I showed up in a parental point of view. And so that is where, and I was able to do that as MinkLife Motivation instead of Monica Henderson, the mom, right? And so that is a perfect example of, like, I just showed up and came from a place of contribution, how I would normally do in business, but in my personal life. And that was a direct overflow. So when I came top of mind for this other scenario, that that we were able to kind of create opportunities for ourselves.
You know, just show up. It's always, we always talk about knowing a guy, right? I gotta, you know, my husband we have a family construction company that does asphalt paving and, you know, and I don't bring it up a lot because they do a lot of commercial stuff, but you know, our network knows this and things. So it was, I got an email the other day. It's like, hey, I've got a parking, and do you know a guy? and I'm like, yeah, I do. So yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm married
So
to a guy.
you know, yeah, that's like, you know, we'll send the son out because the guy, and it's the way it works, right? This is a lot. Did a favor for us to come out and look at my son's camper, to look at some locks for that. Let's turn and do the favor back, right? And let us at least look at it and give you. So it's always, you know, you just don't know where that next great, or the next great connection, and like you said, the next, you know, place where you could, you know, I was in a networking today and people were looking for places to speak, and I'm like, oh, we have a conference coming up, and you know, so yeah, so it's just, you know, getting out, understanding what your sphere needs too, right? Because I love being the fact that, you know, people out there, I try to actively listen what people, you know, so if there is something that they need, you know, that, because then I'm supporting too. Do I get the help, the person that I'm hearing has a need, but I get to support somebody else with that. So it's always like a twofer. Love it. Yeah. All right. So as the time goes by so fast when we're out here chatting. So hope you guys have announcements coming up. So here are the Mingle announcements. Send it back to you, Monica. So what do you have going on you?
So I don't know what's happening. There we are. Hey, I'm still here.
She
I
always
would love,
likes to have her.
right? I would love to connect with you. Yes, you, talking to you, sitting on the couch, watching this, or walking, or scrolling, thumb jockeying, whatever you're doing, and you landed on this video. I would love to have a conversation with you. I am on a mission to help millions of professionals worldwide, and we have came up with 3 ways that we can change the world on an extinction level capacity. And when I say extinction level, like the impact is going to be global in that way. And so we are looking to help people in the communities, or kind of collaborate with young people from 12 to 24. We're looking to help and kind of collaborate with people who are institutionalized rather than the military or veterans, or even in educational institutions. We also are looking to connect with indigenous and rural communities as well. So those are the 3 things that I am working towards for my retirement date of May 1st, 2023. So if you are passionate about creating impact in those same communities, please schedule a Connect call with me. I would love to learn more about you and your business and how we can collaborate together to create that impactful change. And that's what I got for today.
Perfect. sounds like lots of exciting. And for me, I'd love to have you, Monica, mention the Fall in Love. I offer a 2-week free trial. I'd love for you guys to come and try it out. Appointments on your calendar, and there's a link there. So just schedule some a private conversation if you want, or like I said, you can also get the link there to follow up. And we have some other announcements before the. So as I mentioned, we have this amazing conference. We'd love for you to be part of this conference, either as a speaker, a dynamic participant, and actually everyone who participates. It's such an interactive conference. You learn from not only everyone in the room and everyone who joins. So you go to the next global virtual conference and grab your ticket there. And we talk about all these people that we connect with and everything. So we have our Mingle community. Really have a lot of knowledge in there. We have the training courses there. So it's all community to help you in this entrepreneurial journey you're doing. Mingle community. And part of that community co-working area called the MinkLife. We do this mostly every day. So, but in support of each other, the wealth of knowledge in this community that if you are looking just for that little, come hang out with us, and we all help each other grow our. And we are looking for collaboration to be part of this event, to be here as a host. We would love for you to please let us help promote you out into the world. We are here to help everyone and work on their missions that they're doing. We have the podcast that's the missions that we can help you with. And speaking of, our have Yo is going to help you on your next show. It's going to be Wednesday, 9 a.m. so that you can calibrate your life. It's amazing. So
this was so much fun, Colleen. I'm so happy that you got to come from the beach to have this conversation with me. This was delightful. Reminded me of a lot of things, so I definitely will be doing some stuff after this.